But more important than that, I found myself um, clearer in my head. This haze that I didn't know it even existed was gone, and I could think better. I could sort of speak better. I could listen to people. I had more patience.
Zlatko, how did you find Carnivore?
Yeah, hey, Dave. Thanks for having me. I found this way of eating through a lot of trial and error. Ultimately, it was a sickness. I felt really bad. It was one of those things where, okay, this is the only thing I can try at this point if I don't want to try any kind of serious surgery or, massive medication or whatever, which was difficult for me. But I found it actually, to say the truth, I discovered like keto maybe around 2014, 2013, when I was overweight at that time too. So my whole life I was a little bit overweight. Well, I mean, a lot of times I oscillated up and down in weight. And at that time I was probably like 304 pounds, and I was sort of trying to figure out what's going on, and I wasn't eating the best. And so keto was the easy way to kind of, okay, well, I can eat a lot of lean chicken and, broccoli, spinach, all this great stuff, and it was working. And then somehow over time, I kind of forced myself to do that for a couple of years, and learning more about, what's best for my stomach. That was a good experience, because that just going into keto, kind of cutting out some of those processed foods and ice creams and, you know um, bread, big deal for me. I discovered I had hypothyroidism around that time, so where I was really feeling sort of tired, and doctors said, well, your thyroid is acting up, your body is attacking it. We don't know why, but there's this medication you can take. And that's, I was sort of, well, this medication doesn't really seem like a good option. So I tried keto, and that helped. That really helped. It got me from about 340 pounds down to like 280 pounds over a course of 2, 3 years, um, down to maybe 260, you know. So like you see, I'm counting my age almost in my weight. Yeah. I ended up finding out that we got some sickness in the family. My brother got sick around 2016. Well, no, actually, he got sick around 2014. He passed away in 2016. So once we got to that, he passed away, and I ended up 6 months later realizing my dad also passes away. And I move in with my mom. It's 2016, and I'm sort of eating keto, but I moved in with somebody who's just like this old school, nice food, Bosnian cuisine that's just full of, all kinds of good stuff, but a lot of carbs, a lot of beans, a lot of, stuff like that, which I always found that kind of upsets my stomach. So I was not eating it as much when I first moved in, but so since 2016, I've been living here. And since 2016 to about 2023, I started gaining weight, as I started introducing bread, that Italian bread. You got to have it, dip it into those homemade beans, it's great. It tastes awesome. But again, I knew, on the inside, I was like, oh, this is not, I feel it's like there's burning in your stomach, and I learned that like early on too. Like one thing that I learned, maybe if I can go back just a little bit, I moved into America when I was 16 with my parents. We were refugees from Bosnia, so part of that whole ethnic cleansing thing that happened in Bosnia, my parents, my family being Catholic, were forced to move out because the different populations were moving in, and we ended up being refugees in Europe for about 4 years, moving to America in 1996, So when I moved to America, I started going to American high school. And one thing that I noticed immediately was when I ate tater tots. You know what tater tots are? Like just those fried potato chunks that are fried. They taste good, but half an hour into it, I would get this massive stomach bloating. Like just, it was almost like you've had gas, but you cannot, jack that gas, just bloating. And I would feel that when I was 16, So then I noticed, well, there's something with this, I don't know, Um, but now going back, so I noticed that burning in my stomach over the course of years was my guide, if that makes sense. Like if I eat something and it feels like it's burning, uh, or it feels like it's bloating me, I just know it's not me. Might be for everybody else. I don't know. Personally, I have my own things. This Hashimoto thing turns out to be how I found carnivore because hypothyroidism turned into Hashimoto's, right? So after sort of falling off the wagon, some depression and alcohol and bad foods, ice cream, that kind of stuff, bread. For me, I ended up sort of gaining weight back. I went from like 400, 250 pounds back to like 290. And about a year ago, I'm like 290. I mean, I'm again going in the opposite direction from where I want to go, and I'm seeing that like, oh my God, something is not right, and I know I'm not, and I know I'm not feeling good. I started having this back pain again, periodically. Just back seizes up, and you can't move. You can't sleep for days. And you're just in massive pain the whole time. And I'm like, well, what can I do? What can I do? I've seen a chiropractor before, and I found a good one here. And I went and, hey, can you just do some adjustments, that helped me in the past. And he was great, he did blood work, so we found out, and he ran that blood work by somebody who's really good at reading these lab core results, and he knew I had history of hypothyroidism. And it turns out it was Hashimoto's disease, so that was like February of 2024, you know. And at that point, I haven't slept for 2 weeks properly. My back, I can't move. I got to drive half an hour to work every morning, get up. I'm getting like gout and plantar fasciitis. My hands are swollen, everything. Like my pictures of me, I'm just like whitening and whitening and whitening. And everybody's looking at me like with this sort of sympathy. Yeah. Um, that's when you're not doing good is like when people are like, yeah, you're okay. Yeah. Um, so I ended up finding out about carnivore through this chiropractor. He said he looked at those results and he said, well, look, there is this doctor even who studied these results. Their family is doing this. It's shown to show really good results for Hashimoto's, hypothyroidism, any autoimmune disease. And I'm like, okay, that was late January, early February. And the next day, literally went from eating breads and ice cream and all that, drinking. I quit drinking the next day, because I was sort of in a depression mode. It was hard. Um, and one of the things that annoyed me is that all the doctors would always say, oh, this happens, you're getting old. Even people just say, this is a general canard that I hear everywhere, is people say, oh yeah, I'm just getting old. I'm getting old. I'm getting arthritis. I'm getting old. I'm eating well. I'm eating all this spinach and almonds and I love it. And I'm getting old. So for me, when I started carnivore, so that's how I found it. I hope that's how I found it. I hope that answers your question. I found it because of massive insomnia, back pain, through this chiropractor said, hey, seems like a good choice.
Right. And so from February 2024 to now, how have things
Mm.
changed one way or the other related to your thyroid and all the other
Well,
things like sleep and so forth?
oh yeah. Well, that's why I jumped on YouTube, immediately. Like, so because I knew about carnivore as a sort of a thing because I was in keto phase before. So carnivore was always like, oh, these guys, these extreme, you need vegetables. So it took me 2, 3 weeks just to get over the fact that I'm not going to eat a vegetable. It's a massive, scary feeling. It's a bizarre, scary feeling like you're falling off of off of a 100-story building with no parachute. What is going to happen down there? There's spinach is hopefully going to be there to catch me. I don't know. Uh, but I basically felt 3 days into it. So okay, I'm not gonna say it was easy. I was, going through, that sugar withdrawal. I didn't know what I wanted to eat. I knew I just wanted to eat meat, but at first, for the first few days, I couldn't even stand looking at it. Just like, okay, I gotta, and I forced myself eat some like eat some dried cut Bosnian meats, like cured meats, some kind of meat, something. Just eat meat, make myself little variations of whatever, hamburger patties, eggs, sardines. At that time, I was still eating oil because I didn't know yet. So this whole idea of going carnivore, you start sort of looking at other foods, and what's healthy for me and what's not. When I was doing keto and I knew about hypothyroidism, I knew gluten was bad. So that's great. Cut gluten out, massive difference. And I knew that, but I fell off of that wagon because of life events. So I immediately cut out gluten again, cut out carbs entirely, which I've never done in my life. And I've never in my life not had vegetables with food because, you got to have vegetables with your food. That's healthy. You need those nutrients. Well, it turns out that's not true because 3 days later, I woke up after actually sleeping. I slept. I woke up. I was like, whoa, I had a dream last night. It was very, very strange. I woke up like, okay, my back still hurts. I'm sore. I got to go to work. I wake up kind of cranky still, but I woke up with some kind of something happened. Something changed. Like 3 days later, I'm still suffering from like diarrhea, upset stomach, just things I don't want to really eat that meat right now, but I'm sort of fasting until it just feels like I'm hungry and I want to eat it. That's kind of what I learned through Anthony Chaffee. I mean, you obviously know all these things, but he encouraged through his videos, uh, just eat when you're hungry, eat when you feel hungry. And I didn't know when I felt hungry. That was the one other thing that took me 8 months to figure out, hey, where am I hungry? What is hunger? You know? But so 3 days later, I woke up better, right? I immediately noticed this something happened in my head. 3 days later, a week later, there was less fogginess in my head. My back was starting to feel better. 3 weeks later, I'm now eating basically once a day, 3 weeks. So about a month into going carnivore, I started doing more intermittent fasting where I just didn't feel hungry, from 8, maybe 9 p.m. until like 6. You wake up, go all day until 6 p.m. again, and you have a window between 6 and 9. And I'm trying to always push that window a little sooner so I have bedtime, get on a circadian rhythm because now we're getting into fall here in upstate New York. So it's getting very dark earlier, which is a bizarre, it's an interesting, we're part of this whole thing. Um, and I ended up basically a week into this finding myself feeling much clearer, much more like willing to do things. I got up, started doing things that I didn't have an energy to do any of it. The weight loss was the last thing on my mind, but the change that I noticed those 2 weeks in, in my mind, there's a certain clarity that just appeared out of nowhere, which I never expected. Like I'm old. Well, I'm old. I was born in 1981, and I ended up living in a bunch of different countries. Met a bunch of different people, different languages, but the food is always the same. Nobody's saying don't eat vegetables with meat. You gotta have vegetables. That is so deeply embedded that once I landed like 3 weeks later off of that building onto something more solid, I found myself pretty much in a routine. Now I have a schedule. I know what I can eat. It's more delicious every single day. And I ended up over a course of a month, I found myself losing like 20 pounds. not really doing much. But more important than that, I found myself um, clearer in my head. This haze that I didn't know it even existed was gone, and I could think better. I could sort of speak better. I could listen to people. I had more patience. I was a lot more, what is the word, like grumpy, waiting, just uh, there was always something that was going to cause some kind of grumpiness inside.
It's
Yeah.
almost like hypervigilance for
Yes.
being angry, right?
Yeah, it's like a survival mechanism. I think I grew up, when I was a child, 12 years old. We grew up in Bosnia, and very hilly country, four seasons, small community. Once a year, giant pig roast. So when I was 5, 6, 7, I have memories of turning the pig roast for 6 hours by hand, over a big fire, a giant pig, and you do that once a year and you have food for a whole year. So to me, it was like perfectly part of normal. Eating meat was always normal, but along with that, it was always normal to eat vegetables, especially homegrown, fresh, organic spinach or kale or broccoli, or tomatoes. It's homegrown. It's delicious. Bread also comes with it too. So, but I never knew that you can just get away by eating meat. I always thought you needed all these other nutrients from other parts of that, plate. So 7 months. So, okay. So I was February, 2 months in, I'm feeling better. I mean, after that, it's just my weight. I lose about so far. So right now I'm at about 200 pounds, you know, which means that I lost about 80 something pounds since February, right? Which, but that's not like I feel more energetic. I have less weight to carry, but also the hands and the arthritis is getting better. And I'm noticing where my body is storing what I think are like oxalates that Sally Norton mentions. So one big thing that I don't think a lot of carnivores are talking about is like this accumulation of these anti nutrients and toxins and these little tiny needles in your body over time. So if you were somebody who's larger, like I was, 300 pounds, 350 pounds, that's 150 pounds of fat, right? That's all full of oxalates. So as you start melting away that fat, your kidneys and your inner organs, your gut has to filter that out, right? So I learned through my research here in the carnivore community, was Sally Norton's Toxic Superfoods was a really good, helpful resource for me, because she shows the dangers of oxalate dumping and how you have to figure out your own sort of body rhythm. I found that basically so far it's been about every 3 months I get like a gout attack, or some maybe pimples somewhere come out, some kind of something. But then it goes away. I just let it, if I manage it the way I do. What I like to do, if I do get like gout attacks or something, which I haven't had in the last 3 months, so I'm hoping I don't see another one. Uh, I like to drink some water and apple cider vinegar and salt, just a little bit of apple cider vinegar. So that's my only like non-carnivore thing, is apple cider vinegar. I still drink that. And Sally Norton recommends lemon juice also. If I mean, it's all just, you need something for your body to say, hey, slow down this dumping, for now, because the kidneys are kind of not catching up, you know. But I
Yeah.
found myself in a better rhythm. Yeah.
What's the status of your thyroid?
Well, to tell you the truth, I haven't gotten any blood work since, so it feels better. I have no swelling. I have no pain. My arthritis is better. I've only done this for 9 months. So my goal is I'm going to get another set of blood work in a year. So I'm trying to, because I'm not worried about the blood work. It's really more about how you feel. Like, I can tell you how I feel, and I feel like a 25-year-old compared to 43-year-old.
Right.
and I haven't felt that way in a long time. Now,
Yeah, it
that's a
really
big
is aging in reverse, right?
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yes. Yeah, and it's scary because, what does that mean? The aging can be reversed, you know? Wow. Can you believe that?
Right. Yeah. Um, so to get to this point, how have you been eating day to day?
Yeah, it changes. Generally, I'm a big fan of beef and lamb. So luckily here in upstate New York, we have a lot of farms, and I found a farmer who grows his own poultry and lamb. So I get like whole chickens. I get entire chickens from him, and I get some lamb and some duck is amazing. Have you had duck? Oh, duck is so good. It has a much thicker fat on it, compared to a chicken. So I found myself really enjoying like ruminant meat. Beef is, I go and buy ribeyes when I can. There's farmers around here where I can buy them, or just go to a store. But I found myself really enjoying all different types of flavors of beef. So I'm eating usually now I'm eating once a day in that window between 6 and 8, 6 and 9, but at times, I'll have breakfast. My body goes, something in my stomach goes, hey, you should eat. And I have time and I'll just go eat. So I eat when I feel hungry, which usually is in the afternoon, you know. It's just my body goes, yeah, you're hungry. And it, like, going back to that, it took me forever to even know what hunger is. Because when you're eating poorly, like I did, hunger is just not even a part of this. It's just some food industry's ideal concoction is going through you. You have no idea how much you should eat or how much you can eat, because before I started carnivore, during that depressed phase, when I was right before I was getting all the back pain again and stuff, I was eating ice cream like nothing. You get a whole bucket of ice cream, and I eat through about three-quarters of it, and I stop because I'm looking at a three-quarter thing empty, almost empty, and I'm like, "Oh, I better stop." I could eat the whole thing. Where is that going, Like, it's an amount of mass that's now in my belly. I mean, where it's going straight out of me into the toilet, right? But when I'm eating now, I know exactly when I'm done. It's weird. It's very strange. You know when you're hungry. I get like burps, and I start feeling a little bit like you're getting a small flu, if that makes sense. There's just a slight feeling of eh. And that's I'm okay, I'm burping, I feel that, I'm hungry. And food looks amazing. And the best part about this whole thing that I noticed that really helped me, and hopefully it gives somebody else some hope to continue doing, is that cravings don't matter. I still live with my mom. She's okay. She's still eating her old way, which is okay. I love her to death, right? And we are okay, but we have completely different diets, right? And she has cupboards full of cookies, and there's still that ice cream in the fridge, but I can walk by it now, and I really don't look at it as food anymore. It's a strange.
It's a yeah, it's a really strange switch in
Mhm.
mindset, right?
Yeah,
Um, so how has your mum reacted to this? Like, does she think you've gone crazy?
yeah. She has seen me when I was very sick, and she has seen me now in 6 months, sort of 7, 8, 9 months now, almost 10 months. Can you believe it? She's seen me get better. She's seen me lose 80 pounds. So, and also just like I'm physically just more like, yeah, let's go, which is sometimes annoying to people now. I notice that. But yeah, she's initially she was very skeptical. You got to have your spinach. It's the best thing since sliced bread. You got to have your sliced bread. It's the best thing since spinach. I don't even know, but she's okay. She knows what I'm doing, and she sees me eat my steak every day, and I she sees me eat a lot of meat. So when I'm eating, it's not about portion size. You're eating until you're full. So if you got to eat two steaks, you'll eat two steaks. Just go for it. The costs of it all even out ultimately, because if you count out your Starbucks visits and your medicine and your pills and your shoes with special support, or your walkers that you have to buy, all this medical equipment and medicine. I mean, if you count all that stuff, eating just meat is actually cheaper, more affordable, and it ages you in reverse. So my mom is okay with it.
Yeah. Nice. How about the people around you? Like, do you go out for dinner with friends sometimes? And what's the
Yeah.
reaction?
Yeah, yeah, it is hard, to go out and eat. I'm the guy now who's just eating the meat, who's just scraping off all the mushrooms off of the steak, but I prefer not to really go out and eat. I don't, I mean, people I hang out with and my friends, they all see me get better. And I see them, eat and drink their stuff. We go to, when we're going out, I play with music with a bunch of people, and we go out there and they're all eating their stuff. I'm over here eating my beef jerky that I made, and my eggs. They are fine with it, but it was initially sort of like, worries. They're worried about me, because all of us, every single one of us from birth, were told you have to have these vegetables, you have to have this with it. You're not getting everything from meat. But it turns out actually you are getting everything from meat, and vegetables are soaking those things you're trying to get out of you know so I don't care what my friends think.
Right.
I love my
Yeah.
people. I love my people, and those who love me, they see me doing better. And I'm not really worried about, like, if I look weird eating just steak. I don't see any
Mm.
problems with that.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's a bit of a badge of honor after a while. It's like, I quite enjoy being the
Yeah.
outlier.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing with me too. I've always been sort of an outsider, coming into America from Bosnia. I mean, we left Bosnia in 1992, moved to Slovenia for about a year, then to so the different language. So when I'm like 12, I'm learning Slovenian, and then I'm moving to Germany for about a year, studying German, learning German, going to German. Then I'm moving to Croatia in a Croatian school. I already knew Croatian because it's the same as Bosnian. Then coming here to America, going into America. So this is the longest I've lived in any one country my whole life. And I'm always feeling like, oh, this is still not my place. Uh, I think it's in here somewhere. That's the happy place. You can be happy anywhere.
So for you at this stage, this is the way you're gonna eat going forward. There's no going back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see I see no reason to at all to reintroduce vegetables or grains or. I mean, even first drink I ever had was I had a beer at the factory where my dad used to work. He used to work in a beer factory. I was like maybe 5, 6 years old. We went to see a Santa Claus. It was perfectly normal for a parent to give a child a little beer. And I got drunk, man. I was like 7, 8. Yeah. So I was drinking for a long time. Like it was just part of the whole culture, even a little bit. It's just part of the culture. Drink a beer. Hey, man, drink a beer. I drank a lot of beer, but I found that beer, especially that gluten in that beer, and beer is so full of other toxins. I had to quit all of that stuff. So when I started carnivore, I also stopped drinking completely, and I think all of that stuff kind of it goes hand in hand. It's not just carnivore. It's learning what works for you. Like if you're an alcoholic, you might as well stop drinking. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So if a friend came to you and said, "Look, you're doing really well. I want to try this myself." What advice would you give them to get started?
Well, for me, the only reason why I got started is because I had a really good why. Um, that's the first thing, and that why comes from massive rock bottom that you find yourself in, you know? So somebody's not going to want to start carnivore if they're feeling fine and doing well and they're not too fat. They're just average, normal, they're just regular. Usually they're not going to want to start. But when the pain comes and you feel like your whole body is just like fighting against you, which basically what Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism are, it's any autoimmune disease. Your own body starts slowly killing itself, and that gave me a really good why. It was basically I didn't. So for me, a why for me was the most important thing. So I will have to tell my friend that if he's really in pain, this is the easiest thing you'll ever do, you know. But you need that why, and that why is very personal. That why is something that only you can find, and it needs to be sincere, you know. And for me, it was a certain thing, it doesn't matter, everybody's different. But I would tell my friend to just go and do it. You don't need those vegetables. I'm a living proof. I haven't exploded yet. People are expecting me to die any day from a heart attack. Nah, no, man. I've been more active just just because I feel like I can't stop doing things. There used to be a time where I had to force myself to do things. I know I got to paint that porch. I got to fix that something, and you just grind through it after waking up and hating the world and you're just angry and cranky and in pain and every step hurts. Once you get away from that and you really start to feel like a normal, regular, unencumbered human being, there's no better feeling, and I hope to God that everybody can experience something like this in at least once in their life. I'm not saying I'm healed, but I think that I'm on the right path. And I would tell my friend, just start eating meat, stop eating everything else, just go get hamburger patties, go, and it's cheap. You can find this stuff for cheap. Upstate New York, New Zealand, I mean, wherever, Japan, I'm sure you can find some great meat.
Yeah, very nice. So Zlatko, do you have any social media, any way people can reach out to
Oh,
you?
well, yeah, I mean, you can find me online, Zlatko Grozel. I'm on Facebook. Zlatko.grozel.org is the website. Robert.grozel.org is my brother's website. I made so there's a bunch of videos about him. I also have a band called Otherworldly Entity, and we're playing upstate New York, and you can find us there too. So and this whole thing is just like a extra boost of energy that I really needed.
Nice. I'll link to those below.
Mm.
Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your stories, Zlatko. I really appreciate your time.
Dave, I can't thank you enough. I mean, I don't think I don't think you understand just how much you've helped me. I can't believe I'm talking to you. You've helped me a lot because just by showing these interviews where people can talk without any interference, without just people opening their hearts, being vulnerable, it really helps others find some solace. It's not. I don't think it's the end of the world if you stop eating vegetables. And I think there's a lot more benefit to continual meat consumption, no matter what the politics of the world say or whatever. If you want to be healthy, you got to eat meat.